1019 WDET. I'm Tia Graham. This Saturday is Record Store Day, a kind of industry holiday meant to support independent record stores. Music fans and collectors flock to local shops to see what's going on. Usually some special programming, live DJing, discounts, and of course, exclusive new releases. So, after more than 15 years, we wanted to know how Record Store Day has evolved, along with record collecting as a hobby. To find out, the Metro's David Lyons caught up with Dave Lawson. He's the host of The Shakeout on WDET, Tuesday nights from 8 to 9 p.m., and he plays all vinyl all the time on that show, drawing from his massive personal collection of 45s.
You are known as somebody who has a lot of records. Before we get into Record Store Day, I do need to know a little bit about your credentials. How many records do you have?
I've got a lot of records. I have, I think, 13,000 plus records, which, and is always growing. I will say I bought a couple records this week already.
Wow. Okay, 13,000 is a lot. Do you know how much that weighs?
I don't know a lot. It weighs a lot. I can't lift it up. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't want to move anytime soon.
The last time I moved, I said, you know what? Never again. I'm going to have to die in this house now.
Yeah. All right, you've got a lot of records. It takes a long time to collect 13,000 records. What got you hooked on vinyl in the first place? Do you have kind of like a first find that stands out still to you as the record that kind of you knew, I'm a collector now?
I have been... I don't know if there's a moment. I mean, I would say that when I first was in middle school, I picked up a lot of like used Beatles records and things like that. And at the time, the reason I bought them is because they were super cheap and they were in the dollar bin, and it was a great entryway to get into having music. And then you'd go home. And I actually always kind of loved that on old records, there'd often be like writing on them, like somebody be like, this song is great, or I have a 45, for example, where somebody wrote not very good, and it's like a song I love, and I'm like, in my mind, every time I play it, I'm like having a debate with the previous owner of this record.
I love that. Yeah, I have a similar experience. In high school, I was going to a place called Cousins Vinyl and digging through these bins. You get a whole crate for, I think, $25 or $50. It was less than $1 per record if you really jammed them in there. And
it was $20 a crate. I remember Cousins Vinyl. Yeah,
$20 a crate, and I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was working,
it's a great deal.
And that was a weekly trip until I filled up more than a shelf worth of records, and that included Beatles stuff, like you said, but also these really fun bootlegs, like Marvin Gaye bootlegs of they misprint the titles on purpose and stuff like that. Really interesting, weird stuff. So starting early is I think an experience a lot of record collectors can relate to. But then, of course, there are a lot of people who are buying records for the first time. How much of that is due to Record Store Day?
Yeah, I mean, I think historically Record Store Day does deserve some credit for maybe the turnaround in record buying interest. There was a time back in 2008 where a lot of record stores had closed, and the whole idea of the physical medium was people were nervous about, are people ever going to buy physical music anymore? People are just going to stream records, and CDs were not being sold, and nobody could really imagine that vinyl was going to make a comeback like it has. And the Record Store Day idea was a bunch of independent record stores having this, working with distributors and labels and saying, let's put out these limited releases that are only going to be available in physical independent record stores. So you can't go online and buy them. You have to go into your local record store to buy these releases, and they're limited, so it made it sort of that people would go that one day to get these releases. And I think it caught on a lot of excitement at first, and that's been great. I think around 2011, 12 was when it started really like booming, and people were like, wow, records are back. Because I think it started in 2008, Record Store Day.
Mm-hmm. And now that we've had almost 20 years of Record Store Days, what's different now about Record Store Day? I mean, how's it changed?
Well, I mean, I know there are some people who definitely, with the price of vinyl production going up, and then when there's more money involved, you get the major labels get involved and distributors get involved a little more. I know that some people think that the idea of Record Store Day was to support local record stores, but now I think some of those releases, there's a very slim margin of profit for the local record stores. So if you end up ordering a bunch of these limited releases and they don't sell, these local record stores might not make that much money on Record Store Day. But the way they do make money is on all the stuff that is not the list. So if you go in to get your, so for example, like a big item on last year's Record Store Day list was like the Wicked soundtrack. I don't care about the Wicked soundtrack at all, but I know some people really do, and that's great. But there's a million other records at that store that are used, and those they make a much better margin on. So for me, I'm always, I just want people to support the record store so that they stay in business because it's such an important piece of the community, and it's a hub for people to connect about music and to share, and that so many artistic things happen at the record store.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's really special about not just Record Store Day, but record stores in general, is that it's not just a place to purchase stuff. Like you're not just going to Target or Best Buy or even, Barnes & Noble, like I need this product, I'm going to buy this thing. You're going because there's somebody there with some kind of story, some information, a recommendation, and there's an experience with that. So for people who have not been regulars at a record store, can you just describe what that's like as just a place to hang out and more about finding community at a record store? Because I think that's a big part of it.
It really is. It's amazing how many people I will bump into at the record store. Given any given week, I'll connect with a number of creative people in the local community because everybody's going to the record store to browse through the bins and see what came in that week. Because at any given record store, there's new stock in every week. And so it's an unpredictable experience every time in a great way that you never know what you're going to find. But you bump into people and they talk about, hey, what are you doing? Oh, you got a show coming up. There's a lot of musicians shopping. And then there's just people talking about music. Have you heard this new record? Oh, you like this record? You should check out that record. It's, those sort of community engagement moments are sometimes hard to find in daily life. But at a record store, they're happening all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also one of those places that if you're a local musician, for example, or a budding musician, your band is early or middle stage, and you're like, I need people to see my music. I want people to buy it. A record store is a place that might actually put your record on the shelf.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, most record stores have a local bin, so you can browse and you can get to know the local music scene just by looking in the local section of the record store.
Yeah, and that's a harder thing to do on something like Spotify, or whatever streaming app you use. Like, you're not going to get a local bin and maybe run into the person from that band updating the
and
CDs
buying one record
there.
at a record store is going to support them more than listening 14 hours a day for a month on Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that I think has maybe emerged since that. I think of Record Store Day, that era, 2008. I mean, the entire world economy was pretty much in shambles, and that includes physical media and the music industry and all that. And something that's kind of emerged is like how much people truly value some human connection and that physical tangibleness. And some of it's nostalgia, but some of it is just wanting to be connected right now. It's not necessarily about memories of the past, because people are finding that they love records now for the first time, and they're sticking with them, right?
So many people, yeah. I love seeing how many younger people are, building their collection for the first time from scratch, and things that are classics that used to be taken for granted as just being common in every bin are suddenly harder to find because every new collector needs a copy of Fleetwood Mac Rumors or something, and suddenly that's not as common a record as it used to be.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny about that is, so that was the Ocean Spray skateboarding video,
Sure.
right? And
Yep.
Was it Dreams that was in the
Dreams, which is, it's a classic.
It's funny because I have some of those old kind of beat up dollar bin records.
Yeah.
But now that re-releases are coming out of all these albums, and if it's one that I really, really love, I'm waiting for that to come out because I actually can get one that sounds good and is not going to skip a bunch.
Sure.
I've personally enjoyed that this vinyl revival even of the old stuff, because it was really actually hard to find any of these records in a new pressing, which is really nice. What about affordability though? Because I mean, we've talked about the dollar bins and generally used records. They are affordable. They're much more affordable than new stuff, but also, the prices to produce this stuff have gone up. Is record collecting and enjoying, is it an accessible hobby for people? Unless, how much money do you really need to be able to collect records and enjoy
Yeah,
them.
it's a good point, especially the way new records are priced right now. They're not cheap. They definitely keep getting more expensive. And the way that I'm collecting records is I come at it from a different lens than a lot of people do because I'm, digging through the used bins primarily. I don't buy that many new records as much as used records. But I don't know. I mean, everybody's got to make the choice for themselves what they think is affordable. But I like having like a library and looking at it and saying these are the records that matter to me, that I care about, that I have a connection with, and seeing them on my shelf and knowing that I supported those artists, that makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's also something about selecting a mood that you want to have. And
Yes.
I find it so much harder to do that online with a streaming service because it's like throwing all this curated stuff at you, these playlists and these bands that it thinks you want to listen to. But really, like your shelf where you got your records, that's a bunch of different moods and emotions that you can pick that you have, and you can turn that on. That's
Yes.
something I love about it, and I need it sometimes to kind of lift me out if I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of down. I need to amp up here. I'm going to put on Them Crooked Vultures right now, and I'm going to crank it up.
Yeah, and there's something that's nice about playing a record, and there's going to be, while you're listening to that, there's not like pop-up notifications happening.
Mm-hmm.
You can just look at a record jacket and just focus on the music.
Dave Lawson is my guest, the host of The Shakeout on WDET, Tuesday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. He's also a prolific record collector and DJ. He has about 13,000 records, and this Saturday is Record Store Day. It's a national holiday of sorts, at least for vinyl lovers and the people who go to the record stores in their communities. It started in 2008 when physical media and the music industry were in dire straits. But here we are in a moment where the vinyl revival isn't really a question anymore. We know that vinyl did come back from its lowest lows, and I kind of want to know about Detroit record stores specifically, because I haven't traveled enough and been in enough record stores outside of Metro Detroit to know what it's like there. But I want to know from you, an expert in record collecting, 13,000 records in, what's different in Detroit compared to other cities?
Well, I mean, Detroit has always had an amazing music scene, and a lot of those releases were regionally, they were hits in the region and not outside of the region, which means that you're going to find those records here in Detroit in ways that you will not. If you go to another city, it'd be hard to find Detroit records, but here you're going to find little Detroit labels that are amazing songs all over the place. And that's part of the beauty of here. I mean, people come from all around the world to shop in Detroit. We're really lucky to be in one of the best cities to collect records.
Really? And what are they looking for? I mean, give me some names.
Well, I mean, if you like Detroit soul music, there were countless little small labels in Detroit that had a lot of the same players as, say like the Motown releases, and the sound is very similar. And those records only sold really locally, or maybe a little bit in another market, but you're way more likely to find them here than anywhere else.
And like, what have you found in Detroit? Give me an artist name that you're like, this one's here, this one's in Detroit. People might even take it for granted that they can find this album or this band's record or this person's.
Yeah, well, I mean,
around
okay,
here.
an example of a song that I played on this week's radio show is "Misery" by the Dynamics.
If you give me one more chance, I'll prove my love is true. I'll prove my love is true. And do all of the things that I'm supposed to do. That I'm supposed to do. But if I let you down,
And it's the very first release by The Who was a cover of this song, and it is a record that you can find for a couple bucks around town. But it's out of if you're in any other city, it's going to be kind of hard to find.
That's fascinating. Very cool. I never really considered that because I rarely shop in record stores in other cities. But
Sure.
that's neat. It makes sense because Detroit has such a rich music legacy and history, and so much music has been made here that these like artifacts of our history are in all these record stores around Metro Detroit, and they keep finding their way in because people sell their records to the shop. Estate sales happen, and so even this old stuff, it's like Petoskey stones. You wonder, like, when are we going to run out of Petoskey stones in Lake Michigan? People keep bringing them up on the beach, but it's like they just keep showing up on the shore, and I feel like it's the same with records. Like,
It really is.
basements and attics just keep.
There's time
turning
where
them
people
out.
say, "Oh, it's." I feel like it's drying up. Those basements are empty now. I don't know. They still keep appearing. So,
Well, it's pretty exciting. I mean, I have two really young children, a toddler, 2.5, and a 1-year-old. And I think what really tells me that vinyl's not going anywhere is that we have a Bluey LP. The Bluey theme songs, like several of the theme songs from this show are on vinyl. And you know what? It's really fun. My daughter loves to dance and run around and listen to the record itself. I mean, that to me tells you all you need to know about another generation of people who are just, it was normal to have records around. And
it's true. And I know it's going to be really rare as a mint condition Bluey record in 20 years.
Yeah, there won't be any of those, especially this one. I learned that you can buy really affordable vibration absorbing feet for turntables, and it will save your whole setup for
stomps from those toddler stomps.
Yeah. I thought I had a problem with skipping, and then it didn't take too much to solve it. Now we can enjoy Bluey some more. So, Dave, I want to know about what your tips are for having a great record store day. For people who haven't really gone out and enjoyed it before, but they're like, you know what, I've heard about record store day enough. I want to get out there and enjoy it. What should people expect? What is it like to get out there on record store day? What do you think?
It's a really fun day to be at a record store. Everybody is, there's a really good celebratory feeling in the air. It's like the whole community shows up. And, not every single store participates in the list. Like I said, the margins are small, so it doesn't always make sense for them, especially if you're a store that doesn't really carry new records and you're primarily a used store. But even those stores, usually there's live DJs and there's discounts sometimes on like all the stock. And so it's just, there's an incentive for you to go to every one of the stores near you. And I have my shops that I try to make my rounds at, but honestly, every single time I go into any store, anybody who works at a record store or owns a record store usually is somebody I can feel a connection to, because that means that you are a person who loves music and you want to share that joy with your community. And that's, those are the people who run record stores, and they're just such good people in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's so many places in Metro Detroit to go out there, share some joy, get out there for the first time, and maybe you become a regular at a record store near you, or maybe you go to one you've never gone to that's across town or across Southeast Michigan. You can always go out there and explore. Point people in a little direction here. What are some things that people should go out and look at?
I mean, if you're looking for record store day releases, I think on the list, if you're on the west side, I think Dearborn Music is a spot. On the east side, there's Melodies and Memories. If you're up by me, I'm just south of Ferndale. You can go to Found Sound in Ferndale, or Street Corner Music in Oak Park has got DJs all day, and they always have the record store day titles. And speaking of DJs all day, there's Hello Records in Lincoln Park and People's Records in Eastern Market. They've got DJs all day and deals. Those are always great places to be. Solo Records in Royal Oak, I know, is doing 50% off everything, so there's all sorts of fun stuff going on.
And of course, there's one right down the street from WDET here that we're part of.
Yes, we got to talk about that. Third Man Records. I mean, that's, like Third Man Records, it's amazing that they have their own pressing plant. Now, that was a thing that for a while, the prices were going up because there was just like so long wait lines. The demand of records pressing was so high. It's pretty cool that Detroit now has a second pressing plant in town.
Yeah, I mean, it took a commitment and some vision from Jack White to be like, no, we're doing this. When everyone else is like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm not getting into that. He's pretty cool. He's stuck with it, and now we've got this anchor in Midtown, Cass Corridor, Third Man Records.
WDET is broadcasting live all day.
That's right.
On Record Store Day from Third Man, so you can go and hang out with your DJs there.
That's right, and there is an exclusive release as part of that day, so you might get a chance at that if you go down there. And that's this Saturday.
I think that will be worth your trip. That's pretty exciting.
Okay, well, Dave Lawson, I'm really excited for this Record Store Day. I'm going to get out there to hopefully a couple of those shops, because I don't just want to go to the ones near me. I want to explore some new ones.
You might bump into me. Yeah,
I might run into you.
Too.
All right. Yep. Thanks a lot, Dave Lawson, the host of The Shakeout on WDET, Tuesdays, 8 to 9, and an avid record collector and expert with over 13,000 titles in his collection.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Just listen to the two Daves talk about vinyls. This Saturday is Record Store Day. Shops around Metro Detroit will have something special to offer, and one of those is Third Man Records here in the Cass Corridor, and WDET will be part of the fun. WDET's weekend music hosts, Rob Reinhardt, Ann DeLisi, and John Mosier will be broadcasting live from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. So tune in at 11 or show up on site for the revival the reveal, of an exclusive WDET Third Man Records collaboration. None of us know what this is, so we're all excited to find out Saturday. This is only available in store. Full details at WDET.org/events. You all stay right there. We will be right back.